Well, welcome everyone to this last session of this intro course to the three principles offered by the board and the honorary board of the 3PGC for the Russian-speaking community and the Ukrainian-speaking community, sister organizations to the 3PGC. Thank you for being here. I am being joined in this last session by Natasha Swerdloff and Dicken Bettinger. Katerina Fischerova is having technical problems, so she won't be joining us for now, maybe later. But we are here to keep sharing with you and be of service to you. And I just want to point to just how powerful that last session was, this morning's session was, and how life has a mysterious way of working where it does exactly what needs to be done. And it gave us the opportunity to see this understanding and what it does, life. And that gave us permission, all of us, it gave us permission to talk at a much deeper level than we had been talking. And I am really grateful for that. I am of course horrified by what happened to Rob's daughter, and I want the best for her, and I send her all my love and all my hugs. I am sure that we all do here. But thank you, everyone here, for giving that permission, for allowing yourselves to listen that deeply and hold the space for Rob and his sharing. Thank you for witnessing his wisdom live and letting it touch your lives, opening up that possibility for you as well, given what you all might be going through. I'm not really sure how to start this, but if Dicken or Natasha if you guys have an idea of what you would like to share, please.
May I offer an answer to the woman who asked the question about guilt?
Of course.
And it was based on an insight I had once, because very often when I would feel guilty or really sad or really angry and people would talk to me about love, it didn't help me because it seemed so far away. And I couldn't get out of my thinking. And I started to realize that guilt really isn't a feeling. Whenever we're stuck in a feeling that doesn't feel good, we're not really feeling, we're thinking. We're not feeling what we're feeling. If someone really felt guilt, it'd be hard to think, because if you really feel, the feeling opens up, and it's hard to think while we're feeling. It's easy to think and create chronic guilt, chronic stress, chronic anxiety, chronic depression. But to feel what you're feeling in the moment, because only the moment exists. This is what Sid would say, be in the present moment as it is, not as it isn't, not as some imagined better feeling in the future. So every feeling is love in disguise. In other words, every feeling has within it this opening, radiant energy. Every feeling. My son had ADHD. He struggled. He had difficulty in school. He would study for 3 hours in the test, but his mind was so busy that he would fail the test. And he started coming to talks about the three principles. And when he was 17 years old, he did a 4-day program on the principles. I was part of the program. I was teaching, one of the teachers. It's the first time he saw me teaching. He was so cute. He would sit in the back of the class, and every break, he would run up to me and say, "Good job, Dad. Good job." And I didn't ask him how he was doing until it was over. And I said, "Ben, how did you like the workshop?" He said, "Dad, I really liked it. It really helped me." And I said, "Do you mind my asking, what did you learn?" And he said, "I finally understood what it means to feel. Not think, but feel. Feeling only happens when we're present. You can't think and feel at the same time. If you think, you can create guilt, anger, hurt, stress, and it's just one thought after another, one thought after another, and we're not present. The instant we're fully present with an emotion, it starts to turn into a feeling. There's nowhere to go. It's already here. The sun's always here inside of us. Never gets hurt, never get damaged. Pure love is this radiant life energy that when we think, it covers it up, but it's still there radiating. The light's still within us. The instant we relax into the present moment and really feel what we're feeling in this moment, our thinking quiets down. The quickest way to get out of a noisy, busy mind where you can't stop thinking is to start feeling. But feeling this moment as it is without creating a story about it. Just feel. And my son learned that for the first time. And his whole life changed after that moment because he said, "Dad, I learned that that feeling is within me always, and I just need to feel it, really feel it." You could say every psychological problem people have has to do with feeling. Because free feeling is where that feeling just keeps opening, 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 no matter what you're feeling. Rob was sad. He's wiping the tears from his face, but he's really just feeling that without judgment, without thinking about it, without trying to get to a better feeling. And you could see him then shining kindness and warmth, even though in the midst of sadness, even in the midst of guilt, when you really feel this happens for anyone. Now, my son, he graduated from the top of his culinary class of 300 people because he learned how to come home to feeling this moment as it is, as it is. Now he owns 7 restaurants. Now he's married. Now he has 2 young kids that he loves to pieces. He's discovered the secret. Does he get anxious? Yes. Does he get upset? Yes. But he knows how to feel that now instead of think it. And the feeling brings him right home. To be in this moment as it is, without creating a story about it, will always ground you in this moment, ground you in this feeling. So it's just it's a very different way than I've ever understood it, because I was always thinking about feeling better in some imagined future, but right now I feel horrible, so how can I feel better? I didn't know the answer lay in the present moment. It doesn't lie in some imagined future. It's already here. You already have it. You already are it. The instant we feel, we're not thinking. So it was a different way of thinking about it. And I thought I would share it with you because it's allowed me to feel anything. I'm no longer afraid to feel sad or angry or hurt because I can feel it. I can feel the aliveness of this present moment in that feeling. I can feel a happiness within sadness, if you will. It's a metaphor. I can feel happiness within guilt, if you will. It's that feeling of deep feeling, really feeling your life. That's how we become lovers. We start feeling rather than thinking emotions, thinking emotions, thinking emotions. We start feeling this moment as it is. So it doesn't matter what feeling you're in right now. It does not matter. We're a thought away from feeling. Different way of understanding love, isn't it? Love is unconditional. It incorporates everything. It's one. So it embraces your sadness. It embraces your upset. It embraces your misery. If you really feel, oh my gosh. So you can be with a friend who's dying or a family member who's dying or someone you love who's dying. And if you are really feeling this moment, you'll be shining to them. You may have tears. You may not. It doesn't matter. You can be shining. You can be present. You can be feeling this moment as it is. Sid would say that all the time. Not as it isn't, not as you imagine it, not as you think it, but as it actually is. If you feel this moment as it actually is, that's love.
Thank you, Dicken. Listening to you, it occurred to me that there are so many comments and so many questions in the chat that maybe the best way that we can be of service during this last session is just to address things and make it more relevant and more participative in that way. Would you agree with that? Yes, Natasha?
I had exactly the same idea that there were so many questions. I just wanted to say one thing, if it's okay.
Speak louder.
I just wanted to say one thing.
Yes, yes.
Which is that as we're coming to, this is the last session, I hope it's clear to everyone that we too are students. Don't think of us as someone who lives perfect lives and we don't go up and down. We do. It's just that we've learned where to look. We've learned to come home. And that was the power for me in watching Rob share his vulnerability and his strength, seeing him shine through something that was so violent in his life right now. So it was a perfect example of life hits us too in all kinds of ways that we can't foresee. It's not the problem. It's how we deal with it. It's where we go to. It's how we react or don't react to it. It's knowing where to look. So it was just important for me to say to you all here in this last session that we're students. We're continuing to learn. We're continuing to look. And it's beautiful and humbling at the same time that we constantly find ourselves in situations where we have to come back home. And yes, let's go to questions and comments.
Some of the questions and comments are from yesterday and the day before yesterday that were not addressed directly, but I will just go through everything I have. Okay. So there is a question that says, please advise on how to live with a person suffering from schizophrenia. At the moment, it is difficult to always control your thoughts and constantly respond with kindness and love. This situation complicates my life in the same room. There is no possibility to live separately. There is never a recipe. There is never a set of instructions. There is always wisdom. There is always guidance in the moment. I am sure that myself and many others here can talk to what it can be like living with someone that has X or Y diagnosis, that it is difficult to deal with. The promise of this understanding is that if you are willing to look beyond your thinking, if you are willing to quiet your mind and go beyond your judgment, you will know exactly what to do. Moment to moment to moment. One of the reasons why that happens is because it gets you out of the personal and allows you to see what is happening from a larger perspective. Once my son, he must have been maybe 11 years old, and he was caught up in a thought storm. We all get caught up in thought storm every once in a while. He was really caught up in a thought storm, and the theme of this particular thought storm was, "You don't love me, Mom." And he was crying and screaming and punching pillows and desperate. You could see his suffering. Now, of course, I felt hurt and offended by the fact that he could even consider that I do not love him. Now, that is the personal reaction. And that is the place that we usually react from. How could you possibly think that I don't love you? I can give you 10,000 examples that would point to the fact that I love you. But that would be playing the game of evidence. And our minds are the best search engines in the world. They will find evidence for anything you want. Doesn't matter how crazy it is, they will find evidence for that. And so it became very clear to me in that moment that if I started answering from there, it was his evidence versus my evidence. So it was his made up in the moment versus my made up in the moment. And that would get us nowhere, because it is never a matter of, I will convince you over you will convince me. And so I recognized my immediate reaction of, how can you possibly say that I don't love you? And I realized that I needed to take a step back from that because my vision was being compromised. And so I took a step back from that and I saw, oh, well, he's just caught up in a thought storm. And I know how painful that can be. I know how confusing that can be. From that space, what occurred to me to do was tell him, oh man, I know what it feels like to think that your mother doesn't love you. I've been there many times myself. And I am really sorry that you are going through this. You have no idea of how sorry I am that you are going through that belief right now. Is there anything I can do for you? Can I bring you some tea? Would you like some lemonade? You see, his mind was so busy that he could not have heard me say, oh, yes, I do love you. I will prove it to you. But by me saying, oh man, I know what it feels like to believe for a moment that your mother doesn't love you, he felt heard. He felt seen. He felt understood. And so his mind started to quiet down. So I went, brought him a cup of tea, sat down with him, hugged him, rubbed his back. At some point he asked me, have you really ever thought that your mother doesn't love you? She's so sweet. I'm like, well, yeah, but our minds can make up anything in the moment. And so we had a conversation about what it feels like to believe that your mother doesn't love you. We had a conversation about how your mind can make up stuff and it can look real. And the conversation was not about whether I loved him or not anymore. So his mind calmed down. His level of consciousness rised. And 4 minutes later, he was ready to go off and play. And so I stopped him for a second and I said, it looks like you're feeling better. He said, yes. So I said, well, does the thought that I don't love you feel real now? He said, no, that's a really stupid idea. Of course I know you love me. I said, well, just remember that your mind can make anything up.
Can I just offer something also to this question? I will speak up, which is that I'm hearing in the question almost saying like it shouldn't be that way, it should be easier. And I'm hearing a self-criticism in it. I may be wrong because I'm not speaking to you who sent the question. But I can tell you from my experience, I lived next door to my mother for 4 years while she was going through anxiety, depression, addiction. And with my understanding, I really felt like I should be able to help her. I would put on Sydney Banks tapes. I would talk to her. I would even have friends call her up and have conversations with her. And I was frustrated. And sometimes I would yell at her. And sometimes I would cry and beg her to stop her addiction. And I went through all kinds of emotions and pleading. And back to what Dicken was saying before, when we stop fighting what is, when we can just feel into this situation, I am frustrated, or I am angry, or I'm sad, something happens. When I don't fight what is, I fall into love. And I heard a voice one day in my head, and it said, just love her. And love can look very different. Some days I would try and be helpful with a tape. Some days I wouldn't, but it looked very different. But I stopped one thing. I stopped beating myself up. And that was tremendously helpful. And it actually, I feel like it helped for her to resonate with something inside of her deeply that allowed her to say, I think I need to go to a hospital and get help. And she did. She came out of her addiction. She got the right medication, and I got my mother back. So I just wanted to share that story with you.
And out of that, Natasha, I would like to point to a very important fact. Every single person, no matter their diagnosis, no matter what they are going through, chronic depression, whatever, doesn't matter. We all have moments, lapses of wisdom. We all have moments in between our loud mind, in between our noise, in between our craziness, where we can become present, where we can see truth. And it is incredibly important to see those and point people to those moments of lucidity, of presence, of wisdom. Because that is pointing to the truth of the sky beyond the clouds, beyond the storm. There's always an opening in the clouds. Sooner or later, every storm runs out of water. So there's always moments of clarity. And when we point to those, we point to truth. And if the person that is going through the experience can begin to notice those moments, they will begin to see truth.
I need to leave. I'm sorry, but
No.
I need to leave, and I want to say thank you, everyone, for being here. Thank you, Marcia and Olena, for translating. Thank you, my co-presenters, for bringing your love and wisdom. And thank you, all of you, from the bottom of my heart. It's been a real honor and pleasure to be here.
Thank you, Natasha. Take care. So, Dicken, this next one is for you. It is from yesterday, but it is for you. Thank you very much. Today I lived a moment of an empty head when all thoughts let go of me. I realized that we are in this state for a short moment when we wake up in the morning. This moment lasts longer when we are children. When we grow up, our thoughts come faster, and the moment without thoughts become shorter. Today, I think I was without thoughts for maybe 10 minutes or more. It was wonderful. I also realized that when we have no thoughts, we are at home. Everything we need is already inside us. There is nothing outside that we need to be at home. Thank you for everything I experienced today. Yesterday, I had a question about how to let go of thoughts. Today, the answer came. You will not hold on a hot object in your hands. The same with a thought. If it brings suffering, let it go. Dicken said that raising children became a joyful thing for him. First of all, due to what?
As I've told you, I've learned more from being around kids because they bring every emotion possible to you. One of the first insights I had was that because I'm always thinking, there's this flow of thoughts coming through me, and the quality of that thinking goes up and down. And in human beings, we can say every human being has moods. And when our thinking goes down, our thinking becomes more judgmental. So in a low mood, we're more judgmental of ourselves or other people or life. It becomes darker. And when we come up, we feel lighter. We feel more loving. We feel happier. I thought if I understood the principles deeply enough, I would stop having low moods. And early on, I learned that everyone, even Sid Banks, had low moods. Someone once asked him, Sid, do you have low moods? And he goes, what? It would be like my asking him, do you still exhale? Honestly, he could not understand the question. They asked him 3 times. He says, I don't know what you're asking. And someone said, Sid, some people think if you become enlightened, you stop having low moods. And he said, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. But what happens with understanding, when you have a low mood, with understanding, you begin to go, it's coming from my thoughts, not from the other person. It changes everything. How can I blame my kids for making me upset? I couldn't. I started to realize it's normal to feel sad or hurt or irritated, bothered, frustrated. I used to parent when I felt that way. I would bring my frustration to my kids. Hey, stop it. What are you doing? Don't be that way. They never thanked me for dumping my low mood on them. So then I had another insight. I could be a phenomenal parent if I parented from high moods as much as I could and minimize the amount of parenting I did from low moods. And low moods are normal. So for the first time in my parenting, I started feeling I can be a great parent no matter how I was parented. I no longer have to parent from low moods. And if I parent from high moods, I'm always coming from a nice feeling when I talk to my kids about what's going on. It changed my parenting overnight dramatically. Would I still get upset? Yes. I'll give one example. I have many, many examples. One example. So many examples. Oh my gosh. One time, My wife and I are in the kitchen. My son comes in the back door with his best friend. He was probably 10 or 11 years old. Every parent knows when their kids have done something they're not supposed to do because they look so guilty. I knew my son had done something, and I said, "Hey, wait a minute, you guys." And there's a knock on my door, and it's the neighbor. And she says, "I don't want to cause any trouble, but your son just threw a stone through my window." And I turned to my son, who looked so guilty, and said, "Ben, did you throw a stone through her window?" And he started denying it. "No, Dad, I didn't. I did." And I suddenly felt so embarrassed. Here I am, a psychologist, and it's obvious to my neighbor that my son is not only threw a stone through her window, but is lying. Good job, Dad. Good job as a parent. Good job as a psychologist. You have a son who throws stones through windows and lies. And I was embarrassed, and I was so upset that he was lying to me. But I knew I had dropped into a really low state and that was not a good time to parent. The instant you become aware that it's coming from you and not the other person, you have more common sense. So I said to my son, "Go up to your room and we'll talk about this later." It took me about 10 minutes to get over being so upset. I didn't want to keep thinking about it because I knew that would make me more upset. So I just started talking with my wife, and we were doing things in the kitchen. And after about 10 minutes, I could feel my mood come back up, and I started laughing, and I said, "Oh, I remember times when I was a kid. I did a lot of things that got me into trouble." And I said to my wife, "I'm going to go upstairs and talk to Ben." And she says, "Are you sure you want to do it? You want me to do it?" I said, "No, I'm good. I'm good. I'm in a good state. I'm in a good feeling. I'm good." I go upstairs. My son's door is closed to his bedroom. I knock on the door and I hear some scuffling. So I open the door, and my son had jumped up and was running to his bed and pulled the covers over his head. I thought it was really cute, the poor guy. Oh, he was afraid I was going to yell at him, my old parenting style. I saw that they were sitting on the floor playing with baseball cards. So I sat down and started talking to his friend about baseball cards. And my son's friend knew I was safe. You can tell by a person's feeling, their voice, their eyes. So he says to my son, "Ben, come on out. He just wants to talk to you." And my son peeks out. Now, kids aren't stupid. He's looking at my state of mind before he decides whether I'm safe. And he can see I'm just relaxed and sitting there. So he comes out of bed and he sits down, and I can see he's still nervous. So I just start talking to him about baseball cards until I saw him take a deep breath and relax. And I said, Ben, all I want to know is what happened. You're not in trouble. I just want to know what happened. He said, we were playing in our driveway and we have stones in our driveway. And he was a pitcher on the baseball team. And his friends were saying, I'll bet you can't hit that apple up in the tree. And I try to hit it. And he said, I'll bet you can't hit the top apple. And I threw as hard as I could, and I went flying over the tree into the neighbor's yard and broke the window of the back door, and she was standing right there and saw me. I didn't do it on purpose, Dad. I was trying to hit the apple. And I said, oh, it wasn't your fault. Well, we all make mistakes, Ben. And when we make mistakes, I think it's a good idea to apologize. So at some point, I would like you to apologize to the neighbor. Tell her what happened. And I could see him get nervous. And I said, well, if you want, I'll go with you. And he goes, okay. I said, okay? He says, yes. I said, now? He goes, yes. We walked over to the neighbors, knocked on the door. She sees me. She thinks I've dragged my guilty son over to apologize. But my son says, I just want to tell you I'm sorry I broke your window. I wasn't trying to. I was trying to hit the apples on the tree, and he told her. And she said, oh, thank you for telling me. That's so great of you. I think that's wonderful. And my son says, I didn't tell him. He says, can I fix your window? See, my son's now in a good state. Kind, giving. Can I fix your window? And she says, oh, that's sweet. I'm good at it. I'll fix it, but thank you. So we walk away. My son is whistling, and I'm going, good job, Dad. You really did well. Good job. Whoa, what a good father. Wow. That could have been a horrible situation. I could have yelled at my son, been angry at him for days. So I started to learn how to parent from a good mood, even though I had plenty of low moods. Plenty of times I was upset. But it just would be an invitation to become present and wait until I came back up again. And I became a high mood parent instead of a low mood parent. That's how it got easy for me. And I'm glad I learned this before my daughter became a teenager. We no longer had fights. Fights only happen when two people are in a low mood and go at it. I wouldn't do that. I gave up arguing and fighting with people and with my kids. They liked this other parent a lot. They started telling me, Dad, you're upset. Go take a chill pill. Do what you need. Go do what you do and come back so we can talk about this. That's my story. Changed my parenting from that day on. I became a different parent.
Beautiful. Thank you, Dicken. Thank you. So there's a comment here that says, it's from this morning. It says, I would like to share this insight. As we heard here this morning, the only three principles technique, quote unquote, is to remember. It is not a coincidence that the word remember comes from the late Latin word rememorari, which means to call to mind. When we call someone or something to mind, we replace our personal mind's current thought with a different thought. We are free to choose any next thought, including I am one with divine mind. That thought makes it easier for our next thought to be I am love. Thank you. That was beautiful, hey? And yes, just remember. What I like about remembering is the fact that we already knew. We just forgot for a second. It was always true. It was always there. There is another comment that says, treating the patient when your mom is in the morgue and your dad in intense care unit while COVID-19 is possible when you are at home. With you, Rob.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Really, really inspiring. Another comment says, Rob, thank you for this example. I am afraid that I will find time for my son to fly to study on another continent. And if suddenly something happens, I will not be able to be next to him at the same second. And this depresses me. I told Marina about this in Antalya, and she told me, just love him. He knows what he's doing. You did something valuable for all of us. Each has his own path, and we cannot change anything regardless of where we are, next to each other or on different continents. You know, it's interesting that we cannot change what happens or what happened, but we can change what it looks like to us. I had an experience recently. This is going to sound a little bit weird, but bear with me. I had an experience recently that blew my mind because it proved to me how this understanding could change the past. My mother died a few months ago. And for whatever reason, I was not here to be with her when that happened. So when I came back, I organized this beautiful ceremony to celebrate her life and honor her life. And I hung pictures everywhere, and I invited her friends, and I brought tons of flowers, and a lot of people came, and we sang songs and we told stories, and it was all very nice. And people kept coming to me saying, your mother loved you so much. She was so proud of you. And I remember when she told me this story. And I remember when she told me that story. And I am looking at these people saying, that's not the mother I knew. My mother never told me she was proud of me. She never told me she loved me. This might be the woman you knew, but I know who my mother was. And then there was a split second, which opened up the space for a question, which was, well, what if that is actually true and not the story that you have of your mother? And then I asked myself, well, which one feels more loving? Which one feels more expansive? Which one feels kinder? And it was very evident that the story that they were telling me was where there could be more love and more kindness and more understanding. And so I chose to do an experiment and live for the next 3 weeks as if that was the truth. You know, like, let's live as if that was actually true. What that experiment did to me was that it made me revisit all of my life through this new lens. And suddenly, my mother was not unloving and judgmental and critical and cold. She was someone that loved me deeply and admired me deeply and cared and was proud, but was just unable to show it. She just didn't know how to. And that opened up a space in me of pure love and compassion for her versus resentment and distance. I did not know that there was anything in this world that could change the past. But there is. What happened, happened. Yes, my mother never told me that she loved me. She never told me that she was part of me. That is true. The facts are true. But the truth behind those facts changed completely. And I have now, in a couple of months, developed the most beautiful, amazing relationship with my mom. Isn't that something? She's closer to me than she ever was. We have conversations every day. The way she answers has changed completely. It's true, Dicken, I swear. No.
Yeah.
You see, because I am not seeing her through my story of her anymore. It's been quite amazing. Okay. Let's see. Here we go. Let's go to, there are many questions in that chat for today, so let's go to those. Response to Dicken. Are you ready?
Right. Ready.
In Christianity, they call for and teach love using the example of Christ and many other examples around. But what to do when you are burnt out and you yourself are already lame and you are no longer able to give? Are there any self-help techniques? In fact, letting off steam, allowing yourself to hate enemies, for some reason, it becomes easier to respond in kindness. You allow yourself to no longer hold back when they openly mock. Yes, sometimes you do it intelligently, ecologically, but without love. I want to learn to love again, not because it is necessary, but to love from my wisdom and having returned myself home. Please tell me, are there any self-help techniques like 911? Or do you need enough time, figuratively speaking, to lie on the operating table to recover? Thank you in advance.
There are many, many, many techniques. They only work if they help you become more present. Because when we're present, it's like the clouds part and our well-being will start to come out. The problem with techniques is that we think it's the technique that makes us feel better, rather than when I get present, I will feel better. When we feel better, it comes from inside of us, not from a technique. I'm not against techniques. I used them for years, and they help me to a certain extent. But then I was always looking for more techniques. I would pound pillows when I was angry. I would meditate for hours. I would say affirmations. And they helped me think more positively. But the problem was I thought it was the technique that was helping me. But at some point, it would stop helping me and I would have to look for a new technique. Once I started understanding that every technique only works if it helps people become present so that their mind quiets down, I no longer needed the technique. That's one part of your question, but it's not the important part of your question. So I'm saying I'm not against technique, but the more you understand how your mind works, the less you will think that it's the technique that helps you. That's all I'm saying. The rest of your question, I'm way more interested in the fact that you go, what to do when you are burnt out and you yourself are already lame and you are no longer able to give. Please understand, no matter how you feel, you're not broken inside. Your soul is undamaged. Your spirit is undamaged. You are a spiritual being. You cannot be damaged because in those moments when your head clears and you become present, you'll see that for moments you can be kind, you're present, you feel better, your mood comes up a little bit. If I was with you, I could point that out to you while we were talking. I'm saying, oh, like Marina did with her son, right now, you don't hate your mother, do you? And he said, no, that seems not true right now. Because when our mood comes up, we're no longer holding. So even people who are completely depressed, they still have moods. They still go up and down. you begin to be more aware of those moments when you're present and be grateful for the fact that you're able to be present. And if you're grateful for what you do have, you'll get more, you'll feel better, and you'll feel better. Don't worry about all the times you're not. I worked with a woman who was very seriously clinically depressed. She said to me, Dicken, I'll come talk to you, but if talking to you doesn't help, I've had it, I'm done, and I'm going to kill myself. I said, okay. Come on up. And she came to see me. And the whole time we're talking, she's saying, Dicken, I'm still depressed. I'm still depressed. I'm still depressed. But you know what? In every session we had, she became more present. I knew she was learning. I knew she was hearing things. I met with her for 4 days, twice a day. She went home. We had arranged to have a phone call a few days after she left. The time came for the phone call, and I'm sitting by the phone waiting for her to call. 5 minutes went by. I went, oh, maybe she forgot. 10 minutes went by, and I started remembering. She said, if this doesn't work, I'm going to kill myself. 15 minutes went by. I said, oh, boy. And then the phone rang. She said, I'm sorry I'm late. I lost track of time. I said, no problem. Thank you for calling. So good to hear your voice. And I said, how's it going? She says, Dicken, I'm still depressed. She said, but two things are different. Now, no matter what I'm feeling, I feel like deep inside someone is laughing. You know what that is? That's hope. She had a little glimmer of hope that she could get better. And I said, what's the second thing? And she said, I remembered something you said, and it really stayed with me. You said, no matter how down I am, at some point I'll become present during a day and I'll come up. And she says, I only feel good for 5 minutes a day. But now I've realized I never have to make a decision during all the rest of my day while I'm feeling down. And I wait until I'm in a good feeling for those 5 minutes. Dicken, I've made some really good decisions. I'm feeling really good. My life is starting to change because I'm making good decisions. So we had a few more phone calls. I saw her 6 months later at a talk Sid Banks gave, and she came with her mother. And she walks up to me, and I didn't even recognize her. She looked so much better. She was, I think, 35 years old. And she looked at me and she says, Dicken, 50%. She smiled and walked away. I saw her 6 months later. She walks up to me. I'm no longer depressed. But it was my understanding that helped me get through my depression. I started to really realize I'm not broken. And at times when my head does clear, even if it's for 5 minutes a day, I can feel good. And it's built into me to feel good. And I can access wisdom clearly, deeply during those times, and it's guiding me. And it was there all along, helping me, guiding me. And it went from 5 minutes to 10 minutes, from 10 minutes to half an hour a day. And now I can honestly say I'm not at all depressed. I have a wonderful life. I'm so glad I met you and that you taught me the principles, filled with gratitude. So my suggestion to who wrote this is just keep listening. Listen to Sid Banks. That's what I did in the beginning. I would listen to his talks. SydneyBanks.com has all of his talks available for free in his books. And I wouldn't understand what he was saying, but when I'd listen to him without thinking about it, I would always feel better. And I started to realize that's just me quieting down, and the feeling was coming from me, not from Sid. I kept listening. I kept talking to people. I kept listening to people talk about the principles. If you continue to do that, you're built to have insights. You're built to have moments when you're clear to get a new thought. And a true insight is just dropping out of your thinking for a moment and feeling from a deeper place and learning that you can feel from that place and it's always there, unbroken. No matter how long you've been in a thought storm, you can wake up out of that nightmare and you have a moment of blue sky clarity. And in that blue sky, you'll feel better. Even if it's 5 minutes a day, be grateful. That's what Sid's advice. Be grateful for what you do see, what you do have, what you are learning. Be grateful for the well-being you do experience, and you'll get more and more and more and more and more, even if it's only 5 minutes a day. That woman became one of my best teachers. Five minutes a day, and she had hope. 5 minutes a day, and she could access wisdom. 5 minutes a day. Sid would say, don't get greedy. Ego gets very greedy. I want it all. I want to feel perfect all the time. I don't. No one does. Sid didn't. Sid says his enlightenment experience only lasted 4.5 seconds. Marina started her talks 2 days ago by saying, quoting Sid on one of my favorite quotes, if you can take one little step at any moment, one little step beyond your precious thought system filled with all those judgments, all those labels, all those limited ideas, if you can take one little step beyond your precious thought system, even for a nanosecond, something beautiful must come into you. That was one of the very last talks he gave before he died. He wanted to emphasize one little step beyond your precious thought system is this safe, quiet, open space where something new and fresh can come. That's a beautiful, beautiful, heartfelt question, and I really appreciate you asking, sharing that, sharing your despair and your really trying to find anything that will help you. If you find a self-help technique that helps you become present, be grateful for that. But please understand, it's not the technique helping you. It's you getting present, not holding on to your thoughts, which is the only problem we have, and having a moment of well-being coming from within your unbroken place, within you. A moment of amusement, a moment of aliveness, a moment of where you can smile, a moment where you laugh at something on TV or in a movie. That's your well-being coming out. Don't blame the movie. It's you getting your ego out of the way and your well-being is coming out.
Next, we have a reflection that says, what helps me in relationships is accepting that a person cannot do otherwise. They got lost somewhere in their thoughts. Their reaction to me, or lack of thereof, is not about me. It is about them. And I respect the scenario that they are currently living. And I choose to live according to the scenario where I accept them. Maybe they will see how good it feels and will want to try it out too. There's a lot of power in acceptance, no? There is a lot of power in acceptance, and there is a lot of power in giving the other person space to experience whatever they are experiencing without freaking out. I remember when my father was really sick a few years ago, and he was incredibly sick, and he was taking so many medications, and he was delirious. And he had like 7 different realities that he would go through at any given moment. In one of them, he was in his home village in Spain, and he was very upset that it was so cold outside and we were not letting the cows in. It was like, open the door, let the cows in. You are so cruel. In another one of his realities, he did not recognize us, and he believed he had been kidnapped, and he was very scared. In another one of his realities, he did recognize us, but we had him kidnapped, and he did not understand why. And I very soon realized that when a person is experiencing a mental reality that is filling them with anguish and desperation, and you oppose that reality, which would have been me telling my father, no, Dad, remember, you fell, you broke your pelvis, you are at home, everything is good, we are taking care of you. He could not understand that. There was no way his mind could hear that. So it was much healthier for me to go along for a little while with whatever his reality was being, and say, yes, I will let the cows in. And I would, leave the room for a second, and my brother would go from the next room, and then my father would calm down, and things like that. We would just play along and give him space to have his experience and not freak out about it, so that he could see that we were at peace and there was nothing to fear. Like Dicken playing the baseball cards with Ben's friend. I am a safe space. You can bring whatever experience you are having to me. There is space enough for that. It will be met with love and understanding. Now, when people feel heard and seen and understood, their mind begins to calm down. Their mind begins to quiet down, and their state of consciousness begins to come up. It has to. When you have, I remember hearing this from an expert negotiator in hostage situations. And he was telling me, when you have a hostage situation, you need to understand that the other person is in a really bad state of mind, and they are suffering a lot if this looks like a good idea to them. My job as a negotiator is not to convince them that this is a bad idea. My job as a negotiator is to help them raise their level of consciousness so that they see other options. And then a better idea will become self-evident. And I asked him, well, how do you do that? How do you help them raise their level of consciousness? And he said, well, I get them to enter agreement with reality. I get them to accept. Oh, how do you do that? And he said, well, I ask them questions that they have to answer yes to. So I tell them, are you feeling that nobody understands you? Yes. Would you like to have someone listen to you and understand you? Yes. I make them feel heard and listened to and understood. And that is what calms them down. I thought that was a brilliant way to explain it. He said, so my job is to help them raise their state of consciousness. And the only way I can do that is by remaining in a good state of consciousness myself and make an invitation to them to join me there. But they need to know that they are safe. They need to know that I am safe. Isn't that beautiful? Because like Dicken was saying, when the neighbor was there and Ben was there, it is really easy to get caught up in the story. Really easy. Very tempting. And that's what we see a lot of in the world. Like one person gets lost in the story, in their reactive thinking, and then the other person gets lost in the story and their reactive thinking, and then it very quickly escalates. No, and then what bad decision leads to another, leads to another. But the opposite is also true. When we remain in a good state of mind, when we remain anchored and rooted at home, we are presenting that invitation. We are being that possibility for the other. Reflection. I want to thank you again for these days full of realizations and insights. By the way, I now understand exactly what insight is. It is when you come to the realization and experience it in your body. Before, I imagined and thought that I succeeded, that it was like Archimedes saying, Eureka. But this is not quite true. Insight has a response in the body. Good evening, dear ones. Question. I am happy to be here with you and absorb your wisdom and stories from your life. Thank you. My question is the following. Psychologists help clients change habitual behavior strategies that were laid down since childhood, teach and name their feelings, understand why they arise. It works, but it is very long and painful. How do the three principles help to solve such client requests? Often in one or several meetings. How to consolidate a new decision and not return to the usual. When you tell yourself, these are just your thoughts, it gives you the opportunity to return to yourself. When you are at home, you can behave as you want, as if you became a child. At the same time, you understand that you remain an adult and know how to be responsible. It is very cool to feel like a child because at this moment, nothing bothers you. I'm going to let you respond that one since you are a psychologist and you have extensive experience.
A lot of people who come to see me are used to traditional psychology. For 200 years, traditional psychology has paid attention to thought content, feeling content, and behavioral content. And there are whole schools of therapy that deal with thought content. Freud was trying to get at stored negative memories from childhood. But they're thoughts you already have that are stored, they're memories. Cognitive psychology deals with thought content. Existential humanistic therapies deal with feelings, trying to get negative feelings out so you can feel better. Behaviorists deal with reinforcing behaviors you want and creating adverse conditions for behaviors you don't want. But as the person said, if you only focus on negative thought, feeling, and behavior content, it's very painful. Very painful. Sid Banks said, psychology has never focused on where thoughts come from, where feelings come from, where behaviors come from. They only focus on things that have already happened. So all therapy tends to point toward something that has already been created. So it's pointing toward old thinking, old feeling, old behavior. What happened to you yesterday? How did you feel about that? What were you thinking? How did you behave? But it's already happened. So it's too late. If you bake some cookies and you burn them, you can spend a lot of your time trying to scrape off all the black. And you can spend a lot of time going, oh, I didn't want oatmeal raisin cookies. I wanted chocolate chip cookies. So you could try to get all the oats out by working on the content. You can try and take the raisins out and push chocolate chips in. Sid Banks says there's a kitchen. There's a kitchen. Go back to the kitchen. You don't have to keep working on burnt cookies. Go back to the kitchen and create a new batch. Or more accurately, go back to the kitchen and a new fresh batch will be created. So look toward where thought comes from and you'll find new and fresh. Don't work on the old. That's like if you take if you have a math book and you keep making mistakes in math. So at the back of the book, they have all the wrong answers. So you keep looking back at the wrong answers to try and do better at math. Don't look at what you've done in the past that hasn't worked. Don't look at the past for how you felt. Don't look in the past for what you were thinking back then. Look to where you find new and fresh answers that are helpful, that uplift. Where are those found? They're only found deep within your own being. You already have that inside of you, the capacity for new and fresh. That's what the principles are pointing you toward. You're connected to a field of energy that is intelligent, that's conscious, and that's creative, and that when you touch that space of creation, it feels good. No matter what happened to you in the past. And then I explain to clients the past no longer exists. There is no past. There is no future. There's always only right now. Right now you're having thoughts. Right now you're having feelings. Right now you're behaving. Don't look at something that's happened in the past because it doesn't exist. It's only memory. Don't look in the future. It doesn't exist. It's only imagination. So he said, only in the now can we find what we're looking for. Only in the now, when we just for a moment let go of what we're thinking right now, you can begin to experience peace of mind. Only in the now, when you become fully present, can your senses come alive so that you can feel good, be happy, and experience beauty. Only in the now can you feel closer to another person. So let go of thoughts of the past. Let go of imaginations about the future. Thinking about the past will make you depressed. Thinking about the future will make you anxious because they don't exist. There's no security, no grounding. Where do you find security? In this moment, right now. What do you most want in life? They asked 600 CEOs, presidents of companies, what do you most want in your life? You know what the number one answer was? Peace of mind. Peace of mind. The Dalai Lama says every human being does not enjoy suffering and wants to be happy. No exception. We're all the same. I've never met a client who complains when they feel more loving. When they feel more loving, they never say, I want to go back to feeling unloving. And to find out it's already inside of you. You fall beyond your thinking, you feel more content, more peaceful. You know what dissatisfaction is? Thinking about the future and saying, I don't have something and I want to get it and I can't get it now, it'll be in the future if I can get it. If I get it, then I'll feel good. And we're saying it's holding on to that thought that keeps you from feeling satisfaction right now, that keeps you from feeling peace of mind right now, that keeps you from being happy right now, that keeps you from feeling closer right now. So I didn't take Sid's word for this. When I first started learning this, if I was with my wife and I didn't feel good about our relationship, I used to think I have to figure out how to improve my relationship because the relationship is a problem. Sid says you'll find what you're looking for only in the quiet of your own mind. So I said, well, why don't I find out? So I'd be upset with my wife, and we'd be in a low, both be in a low mood and talking, and it wasn't going well. And I say, when I used to say, we have to keep talking until we feel better. We got to work this out now. And I would talk with her for a long time of being unhappy. And I'd say, you're not listening. And she'd say, okay, I'm listening. And then she'd listen, I'd feel better. And I thought, oh, I only can feel better if she listened to me talk about how miserable I am. And then one day she says, I'm tired of listening to you tell me how miserable you are. And I got really angry. If you love me, you would listen. And then I meet Sid Banks. And I would feel that way with my wife. And instead of continuing to talk, I'd go in the other room and sit down and relax and let go of everything I was thinking until I felt better. And as soon as I felt better, I'd go back into the room with my wife. You know what? She changed before my eyes. She looked better. You know, when you fall in love and the person you're with is in a low mood and you think they're cute and you love them anyways and you just want to hug them? That started happening to me. I was falling out of fear back into love. And when I felt love and went with my wife, now I had something to share with her. So rather than share with her how miserable I was, I would just share with her a nice feeling. It's the only way a relationship can improve. I'm going, relationships aren't hard because the relationship is never the problem. It's my state of mind that creates the experience of problem. It's normal to have low moods. Take responsibility for it. It's my thinking creating this. One problem always, holding on to low mood thinking. One cure, letting go and falling into a nicer feeling where you have more wisdom to guide you. One problem always, only for any human being. One cure always, only. The problem is psychological. The cure is spiritual. Falling out of your thinking. So Sid would say, if you have the courage to take one little step beyond your precious thought system, let it go just for a moment. Stop thinking about how horrible your life is and how horrible your relationship is, and let your head clear. And when you find a nicer feeling, now you have something to offer a relationship. Bring that to your relationship on a regular basis. That's what changed my parenting. It's what changed my relationship with my wife. It had helped me to deepen my every friendship I had. I took responsibility for my own state of mind and became very particular about what feeling I brought to another person. I didn't know life could be that easy, that I would find what I was looking for inside, and then I had something to give away. Look within. There's a quiet, and in that quiet, there's a feeling, and in that feeling is all the knowing you need to live a beautiful life, no matter what is happening around you. Whether it's a beautiful circumstance or you're in the midst of a war, you now have something to offer the world and other people. And it's been within you all along. It's the cosmic joke. You already have what you're looking for.
And today for me, was the first time to deeply understand the meaning of forgiveness. It is another suffering for human, and it is only and only from human himself, so self-created. It was another insight about how many times and how long I was hurting myself by myself again and again. And I cried, and it wasn't a regret, but gratitude. At last, I could free a slave from a free human.
Goosebumps.
Choked up in tears.
Oh, so happy for you.
Welcome home.
Welcome home. Free at last.
This is another one that you are going to like, Dicken, because you and I are a lover of words.
Yeah.
A lover of words as well. So they say, I just checked the word insight in terms of translation to Russian. Direct translation from English to Russian means epiphany. Now I will use it to explain to people what insight means in reality. And we can see that insight means a sight into yourself. When we truly are able to look deep inside in ourselves, we see the way home. Beautiful. This is a really cool question. So, there is no need to work through anything. No need to dig into anything. No need to heal traumas. None of this makes sense anymore. Remember what he was just saying? I'll just say one very short thing. And
Yeah.
Do you remember what Dicken was just saying about you cannot find the answers to the present in the past? Because it's not about what you thought in the past, and it's not about what happened in the past. It's about what you are doing with your thinking right now. That is the only thing that is creating the pain. So when you are using your precious power of thought to recreate a painful past, your wisdom is yelling, hey, this is not helpful. Please stop. This is not helpful in the present. It will never be useful in the present to keep bringing back a painful past. It will never be useful in the present to scare yourself with possible outcomes in the future. Because as human beings, we are beautifully, wisely equipped to deal with the present. We're horribly equipped to deal with the past or the future. That's not how our precious, powerful principle of thought is designed for. Yeah, Dicken.
For a year after I learned this, I kept shaking my head and saying, it can't be this easy. And one day I said, why not? I had been told all during my study of psychology, it takes a lot of hard work to become healthy. You have to work really hard on your relationships to have a good relationship. Well, I'll tell you what, I've been married almost 60 years, and I do not work hard on my relationship. I relax into myself and bring nice feeling to my wife, and she does the same thing. And we have tons of low moods. but it's not a big deal in our relationship. It doesn't mean anything. It's like the psychological exhale. It just happens. And I can tell when my wife's in a low mood, she gets quiet. And I can tell if she opens her mouth in a low mood, there's going to be some judgment in it or criticism. So I don't take it personally like I used to. I didn't know. Letting go of thought feels good. When you get in bed, every night you have to let go of thought to fall asleep. Does it feel horrible? Is it painful to let go, to relax? Surrender is what the principles are all about. The more understanding you have, the more you live in letting go, not holding. And it feels good. So one time Sid said, if you let go, you're fully present. That's all listening is. You're not holding on to any thoughts while people are talking. You're just present. Thoughts come up, you let them go. You're just present. That's true listening. He says, now, listen that way anytime during your life. You don't even have to be with people. He was using listening as a metaphor for our natural state of mind of being present. In Tibetan Buddhism, they call our natural state of mind newborn consciousness. And it just means the space we're in before we have concepts. When we let go of concepts, we drop into a space before concepts. Sid would call that the state of no thought. And he'd say, that's what you're looking for. That's what every human being is looking for. And you can't think your way to the state before concepts. He says, you have to go beyond all concepts just for a moment, and something will shift in you. Shift in consciousness. Just for a moment. There's a meditation technique where they have people just say over and over to themselves, because they said that's the sound of surrender. Well, without techniques, I see my clients all the time go, oh. You say, hey, Rob, how are you doing? Oh. It's just natural. It's natural. Why would I hold on when surrender feels so good? And when I surrender, I don't become dumb or stupid or passive or a doormat. I become wiser. I become happier. So it's not about feeling good. It's about surrender. You can be in a low mood, and if you're surrendered, you have perfect well-being. You're in a low mood. You feel shitty. And you're wide open. Your mind is open. And when our minds are open, there's room for wisdom to come in and guide us and help us be loving and kind even while we're in a low mood. And then that thinking passes and our mood comes up. We're like little kids again. We can be an adult working with the head of a company. He would feel so much stress, but he thought it had to do with being an adult and being the president and having responsibility. And he felt so much stress that when I would meet him for dinner, he had already had 3 double martinis. If I drank 1 double martini, I would barely be able to talk, but he was so used to it. In order to feel better from all that stress, the only thing that helped him was 3 double martinis. When he stopped working, he learned that surrender feels good than a double martini. So then he had a choice. Hangover? No hangover. Drink every night or be happy. And he became less and less and less stressed. He still was president of the company and he still had the same responsibilities, but now he's not walking around filled with stress. He changed so dramatically, his staff couldn't believe it. So you can have a quiet mind and be incredibly responsible, have enormous responsibilities, and still live from the present moment. And still use your intellect wisely. And as soon as it creates tension, you're not using it wisely, let it go, surrender. That's all. In Alcoholics Anonymous, they tell people, let go and let God. Let go and let your higher self. Let go and let wisdom. Same thing. It's all the same thing. But letting go is not a technique. If you're holding something hot, you let go, but it's not a technique. It comes from understanding. If you understand holding thought is a problem, surrender is natural. It's not an effort. It's not trying. It's not a technique. It's just, why would I hold on to this thinking when if I let go, I'll feel peace of mind, I'll be happier, and I'll be more loving.
I would like to bring to the table before we finish, Dicken, something that Sid points to and that I think is incredibly relevant to understand. When we talk about the present moment, we are talking about the present moment, but without the past. If you bring the past with you to the present moment, you are looking at the present moment through the past. And that's not the present. You have to let go of all that past, like Dicken was saying, your precious thought system, to really become present in the moment. Newborn consciousness. Empty. Unknown. We are coming at the end of our time together, but I would really like to read a few comments, Dicken, if that's okay with you. Do you have a couple of minutes?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. It says, how cool is that? Just go back to the kitchen and make new cookies. Why bother with cookies that are already baked? If you like raisins in your buns, just buy some raisins. No need to pick them out of the buns and no need to store the buns if you don't like. How cool is that? My life will never be the same. Last year, I went through a super expensive training for me where I couldn't continue practicing because I had not yet become a product of my product because I was picking at my thoughts. That's how it is with me. I am okay. It's just that sometimes the waves are big, sometimes small, but still the waves are just part of the ocean and I am the ocean. How cool is that? Dicken, your example about burnt cookies, does it imply we can reassess the situation in the past, have different views on it, as Marina reassessed her mother's attitude, and change her thoughts about today? Simple. Thank you so much for an incredible 3 days. I am so grateful to all of you, all the speakers. I loved every minute of it. Thank you. Thank you for this 3 days filled with wisdom, warmth, and love. All the best to everyone. It feels like listening to the speakers is very therapeutic in itself. Incredible. There's many like that. There's an important question that says, please tell me, where can I learn more about the 3 principles? is there training in Russian? How much time it takes? When is the start of the next group? For that, you will have to talk to Masha Lyashenko, who is the leader of the Russian-speaking Three Principles community, and she holds regular programs. So feel free to check that with her. And before we say goodbye, I want to remind you of the possibility of donating to the 3PGC on our website, on the same page that you signed up for this program. Every penny you donate helps us continue this work out in the world, helps us continue in our mission to end psychological suffering. So please, 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 if you can, go and donate anything you can to us. Thank you. I am overflown with gratitude and inspired beyond belief. Thank you, Masha. Thank you, Lena. Thank you, Kate, for all the work behind the curtain and the time you have donated. Thank you to all the speakers. Thank you, Dicken.
And Katerina, who is not here right now, and Rob, thank them. But Masha and Olena, I live in complete admiration that you can translate as fast as we talk. I can't even comprehend that. Thank you so much. You deserve a really good rest.
Absolutely. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for trusting us. Thank you for opening your hearts and your souls and your ears and for giving yourself the opportunity to be here. Who knows where this will take you going further, how it will touch your lives and how in your turn you will touch the lives of others. Thank you for being part of this planetary movement, this planetary effort to end psychological suffering and continue the legacy of Sydney Banks. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you very much.
Спасибо
большое.
Спасибо.
Маша, перевод бесподобен.
Спасибо, девочки. Да, Машенька, спасибо огромное.